good noon to each one of you. And today I will be discussing about the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. But before we start, I would like to know how many of you are DevOps engineer. We want to move all the workloads and everything to the public cloud. It is a kind of little bit difficult to do them, and also some of the companies are more interested to run their code and keep their data on-prem only. I have seen the company and I have also worked for the company. Those are more like we don't want to go public cloud unless and until it is not at all solving the issues. So if you see if you go with the hybrid cloud or anything, then it gives you the flexibility. Where you want to run your data, where you want to keep your data, and if you want to go with the hybrid things, then you can also leverage something called the cloud bursting. So what basically cloud bursting means that you are running some limited amount of service for the compute locally on-prem, and you are serving that capacity to the customers. In future, if the requirement or anything is increasing, you are leveraging the cloud to do the scalings and to serve your customers. So basically, you are leveraging your public cloud for the cloud bursting and to do the scalings and everything along with your on-prem setup. And you can also optimize the performance, and whenever you need, it will also help you to save the cost and all those things. Because you are not putting everything and you have already invested, so the things are running already with your initial investments. And again, if you have some of the things, you can reduce the data exposure to public cloud, because your data and everything, the gravity of data is already there on-prem. So if you don't too much worried about that, you can handle the access and increase the securities and all those things with hybrid cloud. With multi-cloud specifically, it will be the highly available if you are using the multiple cloud, spreading out your things and everything. And it is also, you can leverage the best in class. So suppose you are working with any specific cloud provider and you want to leverage the pricing option, which is you are getting something cheaper option with another cloud provider, and you want to leverage that, then definitely if you are going with the multi-cloud, you can do this, and whatever the available best in class, you can use that. So that is why you need the multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. And also, if you see, the data centers are not going anywhere. So data centers are there, and in future you might need multi-cloud. I have also some of the numbers. If you will see those numbers, then you might get amazed that how many people or organizations are really interested and using these multi-cloud and hybrid cloud strategies. Now, this is what something I have come up with, basically based on my experience about working with multi-cloud and hybrid cloud things. So this is, if you dissect the model, then when anyone says or you have some requirement to do the anything, whether you are implementing multi-cloud or hybrid cloud, if your team manager, leaders, or anyone told you we want to implement it, what first things you will ask them? You want to spread out your application, or you want to just keep your data anywhere? So this is what a different type of strategies or pattern that I have tried or I have come up with, which you can implement whenever you are trying that. So you have some option for the arbitrary, segment choice, portables, and all those things. So basically, if we talk about the portability, then you can migrate your workload anytime with the single click from one cloud to the another cloud. If you see the parallel, then you are spreading out your workloads to the both clouds. So that is what the idea is, that you are parallelly doing the deployments to all those things. While in the segmented, you have some kind of affinity or affinity, some type of rules, or based on the physical machines or server configuration, you are spreading out or the segmenting your computation. So this is what dissecting the multi-cloud things, the patterns, and you can leverage your, think about it. So what you are actually planning to implement whenever you are trying. Now, anyone have idea about this architecture? This is something called in Google Cloud HubSpot architecture. Anyone have tried or implement? Okay, sorry, have the idea. So basically, the HubSpot is more about you have one on-prem network and you have the multiple subnets based on the teams. So you have the different teams for the user teams, or you have aviation team, automation teams, these whole subnets are connected to the shared resource VPC. And the VPC is basically connected to your on-prem subnet or your on-prem network. So this is what we'll be talking about, the HubSpot one. If you have the idea, then it would be little easy to understand. Now, coming to this part, how many of you have the idea about WebAssembly, WSM? Anyone? Okay, yeah, so a few of the people have idea. Now, when we talk about the WebAssembly or WSM, it is more about the running your assembly level or your general code into the web browser. Visual code you can run into the browser. Anyone? Which type of languages or the code that you can implement, you can execute into the browser? JS, then HTML. Yes, and now you have the option with Python also. You can do some type of tweaking and everything, and you can simply execute it. Also, how can you forget the CSS? So we can also run the CSS. But with WebAssembly, what is the basic idea is, suppose your Node.js code is there or your Golang code is there. For example, let's take the example of Golang. And you have to convert your Golang code into the assembly level language. And you are putting that assembly level code or whatever binary that got generated with your whatever you are using some tools for the generating WebAssembly binary. So once your binary is ready, you are moving that binary with your JavaScript code. So your Golang code now converted into the binary, and you have given that binary into the index.js. That is the normal binary you create for the JavaScript. And once you call the HTML file, that is your index.html, it will call to your index.js file. As simple as that, everyone have the idea, correct? That index.js file will call to your binary. So basically now you are running that binary into your browser. And your Golang code will be executing now into the browser level. So you are running the assembly level code on browser. But that was about the context, how or what is WebAssembly. But nowadays people are talking about the WebAssembly is not only limited to the browser. So for example, over here, I have kept or running one container that is running that specific binary. So whatever binary till now we were creating, it was specifically to run on the browsers only. But now you can run that binary on top of container or inside the container. Because when you want to run anything in container, what you basically need, you might be using the Docker or the Podman container D in Kubernetes. But there is something called the SIEM. If you see, the container D uses the SIEM, and the SIEM have the run SIEM. That is the default process, and you are running your process on top of the container. We are not going much into the depth, but this is what the basic of container D looks like. Even if you are using the GK uses the same thing. That is the container D. But if you have some requirement, suppose you want to run the WebAssembly container or your WebAssembly workload on container, then GK is not supporting that specific container runtime. So what you will do? Any suggestions or any ideas or anything? Because you need to install and run the specific type of container D on your worker nodes, and then you will be able to run this type of specific workload on nodes. So the simple or basic idea you have, that you take one GCE VM, you have one VM, you install the container D over there, and you run your workload on top of the GCE VM. But the challenge for you is that you have to connect the GCE VM to the GKE. So from GKE you can manage that VM. That is what the basic idea is. And it would be a little bit difficult task for you also to connect that VM, manage the VM with the GKE. It is not ultimately managed by the GKE. So you have to do the node upgrades, version upgrades, rolling out and all those things. You will be really tired. So what I thought, instead of doing that, if in my own premise, if I have the cluster which is already managing my worker nodes and everything, if I change that container D or whatever the container runtime is there in my on-prem Kubernetes cluster, then I can simply give my Kubernetes cluster running the specific WebAssembly workload only. But on my GKE, I am running the normal Node.js, Python, and all this type of different services. Now, what will happen? I will use the Anthos. that what I will be talking about in the further slides, but now we came over here on the WebAssembly, this is what the idea is. So you can also go this way, but I thought it would be better if you are using the Anthos, then keep your WebAssembly Kubernetes container running on the on-premise, the whole cluster, uh, manage it locally, and it would be better to use the GKE along with that. So it will be the kind of hybrid structure, but if you want to go this way also, it is fine. Now, what all type of implementation problems comes when we talk about this architecture? And the first problem is the consistency. Suppose in my organization I have some requirement that you cannot expose some port, or you cannot use some services like you cannot create the service load balancer. Everyone have idea about Kubernetes? Anyone who don't have idea of Kubernetes? Mostly everyone aware about Kubernetes. Suppose I want to do like in my Kubernetes cluster and no one can create the load balancer service, what you will do? You have to implement some policies or either use it and use some tools like cloud governance. If I'm using some tools or installing the cloud governance tool on my GKE, it will work specifically to GKE only. What will happen to my on-premise cluster? So I want to implement all the security policies, compliances, whatever my org's requirement across all the clusters. And over here we are just talking about two clusters. In organizations you might have the multiple teams, multiple subnets, networks, and you have to manage all types of different rules about the network policies and how it should work. So that consistency problem is the main. Then further is about the central governance. So suppose I have some issue in on-prem, wherever my workload is running, what generally you do? You go to the kube config, you change the context of your kube kata or kubectl, whatever you call it, and you check the logs, how you generally debug, correct? Now if you want to do the across the multiple, if you want to monitor the multiple clusters, how you will do that? The one is running on-premise, which is the local one. The another one is on GKE. If you are running the multiple clusters on GKE, then you have the dashboard available. Correct? In GKE, you can monitor all the services, health, and everything. Any tools or anyone you are using to manage the multiple clusters, or monitor how and things to debug and everything. Yes. So you have options like Harness, or anyone have used the Lens. But in Lens also you have to add the kube config file and everything. Suppose you have given that kube config file, I'm not sure how the harness is working, but I want to give access to my colleague. So for that I have to share the kube config file with him manually so he can monitor my Kubernetes cluster and check into the console or whatever. If you have used the Kubernetes dashboard also, which is by default, right? Now, I don't know if people are using or not, but in that also you have to manage the security things, what all type of access you want to give it. In Harness or in Lens, you can edit your service from console, whatever tool you are using to monitor. So you can change the things. So it would be also difficult to manage the governance or manage the access. If you setting the kube config files and everything, anyone can update your clusters anytime. So the managing the security is also one issue along with the consistency. Then another thing is single source of truth. So that's what we talked about, right? That it is very hard to get the idea what is running on this side, and all those things. So that is there. Then another part is the auditability. If you want to do the audit logging, who updated these things or anything, how you will do it. In GKE you have all the options. In Google Cloud you can do that. But now you are managing the on-prem also. You have one cluster running over there. Someone have the kube config and updated something, you won't be able to get the idea who updated. So these all are the different types of problem. You have also a problem for the CI/CD, how you will send your workload to there, all those things. So that is about all the implementation problem with the multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. Now, this is the Anthos, where it comes into the picture and resolve all the implementation issues that we discuss, whether it is the security part, consistency part, or all those things. So why using the Anthos and everything? Basically the Anthos in Greek it means the flower, and it is the software that is offered by the Google Cloud. You can use that to resolve all those issues. We are I'm just little bit changing my speed, moving ahead. This is what the data I was talking about. This is the data from 2019 survey, and it was about 786 different organizations or enterprise. It is not small enterprise; those are more into the services, product management, and all those things. They were using the more than 5 clouds, near to 5 clouds they were using, and they were using 94% of cloud. And the multi enterprise or the multi-cloud strategy, 84% were using the multi-cloud strategies. But if you see the number, 76% were having the issues, managing all these things, consistency, securities and everything. Now if you see the recent data from 2023, the 84%, it got changed to the 87%. 87% now started using the multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. So mostly everyone is again still facing the issues if they are moving to the hybrid or multi-cloud. So Anthos is basically the platform that helps you do the modernized things. If you are running any VMs or anything locally, you can give it to Anthos. Anthos can move it to the containers. So it has so many options available. It is not just about hybrid cloud and multi-cloud. If you have the on-prem VMs or anything running, that is a legacy application or anything, you can help give that VM. And with Anthos, you can also modernize it. So it will take your VM, convert it into the container, and it will run that container directly. You don't have to do the much. There is something called the MGCTL. So you can use the tool MGCTL, and you can use that to modernize your legacy applications also. This is the kind of ecosystem about the Anthos. You have the policy management option, you have the service management option, so that is called the Anthos Service Mesh. You have the container management, that is the normal GKE, Anthos and all those things. You have the core operational management, everyone knows the Google Cloud basically, with the logging, monitoring, and all those. This is what I want to talk about, the control management architecture. So we talked about it is very hard to manage the security, governance, policies and everything. So in Anthos you have one option, that is called the config management. In Git repo you add your YAML files. So once you add your YAML files and both clusters are connected by Anthos, it will apply that YAML file across all the clusters that is connected. So it will be very easy to manage whether you are applying the security with YAML file, managing the cloud governance, you are deploying the workloads, all those things. It will get applied across all the environments or the clusters you have available. This is about the service mesh. How many of you have the idea about Istio? Anyone using the Istio? No one using? Okay. So yeah, if you have the idea about Istio, the Anthos service mesh is also similar to the Istio, and it is a little bit upgraded version of the Ingress. If you are using the Ingress and Kubernetes, Istios or this service mesh gives you the better option. You have easy authentication like the mutual TLS option. You can implement some tracing, push it to the Google Cloud and so many things. You can also do the fine grade upgrades, some CIDs option with service mesh you can implement. And the specific Anthos service mesh is managed by the Google, so the release and everything will be specific to the Anthos only. So if there is any update from the Istio, it won't be affecting the things whatever you have implemented in your clusters. Now, this is the normal Kubernetes cluster, right? Everyone have the idea, you have the access to the kubectl, right? In normal Kubernetes, you don't have anything for the display, right? You have anything for console, you cannot see anything. You have to run the commands only in Kubernetes. This is the GKE. In GKE, you have the option for the console, correct? I have mentioned over there console UI, and you have the another option is kubectl, correct? Now, this is something called the GKE on-premise. If you are using the VMware vSphere, basically you can see over here there is something called the admin control, and with that you can manage the multiple user clusters. So whatever these clusters you are seeing over here, that is user cluster, and you can get the multiple user clusters with GKE on-prem, and you can manage them. But if you notice in all this, there is no option for the console UI. That is only available with the GKE and GKE on-prem. If you have this normal Kubernetes cluster, you have nothing. So there is where the single pane of glass of all the environment comes into the picture. So if you are connecting your Kubernetes cluster that is running on-prem, you can manage it from the console of Google. So everything will be on a single glass pane kind of things. You have all the availability, you can see, monitor, do the editing, update from the one single place only, whether your cluster is running locally, on-prem, anything. It should be just managed or connected by the Anthos. That is what it is giving the benefits. Now, this is what benefit we talked about. Since I had the 10 minutes only, I just go a little bit in the speed. But this is what we talked about: how you can leverage the single centralized place to control the things, implement the consistency across the environment. You have the ethos to migrate, the one I was talking about, the big CTA. You can do the conversion, migrations, and all those things. You can increase the productivity of developer for you as a DevOps engineer, or you are into the operation. Like, it will also increase the productivity and help you out a lot. And this is what the general architecture is there. You have the on-prem, which we talked about. You have over the cloud router that is connecting both, and you have the repository. From here, you are applying all the things, and it is the single source of truth for you. If anyone joining your team and it gets access to this repository of Git, they goes through the different YAML files and get the idea what is happening into your environment or different clusters. Now let's quickly talk about the pricing. In Anthos, you have the two pricing models. One is the individual, so if you are using any of specific service, whether it's Anthos Service Mesh, config management, or multi-cluster ingress, you can go for the specific individual service also. And if you are enabling the all APIs, then you have to pay for the all the pricing. So it includes all the services. So if you are using the specific one, enable the specific API only, and you can leverage that. So yeah, that's all quickly from my end. If anyone have question or anything, feel free to ask. Anyone material have you covered? Okay, I hope I explained well about Anthos. That's all. If anyone have question, feel free to